Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday crime. Tuesday true crime. Getting back on schedule after the live trial of Sarah Boone. Well rested and looking forward to a full week. We've got a couple of updates tonight. Yeah, it is. I agree, Anna. I'm going to pull that one over right away because that's one of the ones we're talking about tonight. The Fravel case is starting to look like a case here in Nebraska, but we haven't found her yet. Yep, that is missing mom of two, significant other, father of the children, prime suspect from the start. Really, really interesting case. And we're going to go over all the details in the case today. Unfortunately, it is out of Minnesota, and the family, the friend, the loved ones of the deceased, Madeline Kingsbury, the victim in this case, the homicide victim, they had put forward that they really didn't want it televised when it all came out, and so it is at the judge's discretion. He honored the family in the publicity that is surrounding this case, and so it's closed courtroom unless you show up in person and you can get inside. But we've got some great reporting on it. We've got some good sources that came through. And we can tell you what's going on. That trial started the same day as Sarah Boone, or well, it was intended to start the same day as Sarah Boone, but also like Sarah Boone, they had a lot of issues with the jury in the beginning. Sarah Boone trial, that was due to the hurricane and some extensive questioning that needed to be done. But in the AdamFravel case, it was the amount of questioning that had to be done because of how huge this case was in the area. Okay, so I guess we're going to start with that. It does look like we're going to start with AdamFravel then, because why not, right? Okay, so let me just get things a little bit ready. I'll tell you about a few things first. Okay. Let me bring this guy up. He is not a pleasant looking. Well, I guess he is to some, but he's just not to me right now. But I'll show you who we're talking about here. For those of you unfamiliar, meet AdamFravel, currently on trial for the murder of Madeline Kingsbury, the mother of his two children. He was a primary suspect due to a couple of issues. One, he was the last one to see her. Two, his alibi was that he was in the house with her when she supposedly disappeared. And three, well, let's just say when talking to the police, he gave contrary information to what they could actually confirm. It's not uncommon to be the primary suspect if you are in a relationship with someone and they just vanish. They always go, what? They always go to the partner. They always go to the spouse, right there. So that's not really that unusual. But in this case, I mean, the things about this case, as we go on, it gets a little dicey because here we have a prosecution team is doing a really good job. Just to go over just the basic particulars, let me just pull up that particular part because this, for those of you that are not here, okay. Madeline went missing in the end of March of last year. And I'm gonna pull it up like from the slides to give you guys a good predecessor because there's the whole thing is laid out here. We'll just go through the whole thing because as far as I'm concerned, we're in the middle of trial and that is what's necessary. Okay, this is Madeline. Okay. This is Madeline. And on the 31st of March, Madeline dropped her two young children off at a daycare in Winona, Minnesota, with the father of her children, AdamFravel. And After that, she was never seen again. Okay. Points that have come up in the trial as evidence has entered. And as I tell the story, I will tell you what's already been entered into evidence so that we can have a good discussion. The flannel that she was wearing on camera, video camera outside the daycare, when she dropped off the children with Adam, and it was definitely all documented, and they was definitely kind of routine. Oh, they definitely was caught her wearing this flannel that was discovered in the house. So they know that Madeline went back to the house after dropping the children off. Okay. Adam does confirm that the two of them went back to the house. He states in his statement to the police the day after that she went back to the house. He thought she was going to go to work. Even though her van was still there, he thought she just got a ride and went into the office. He thought she was just going to go up into her room and work on the laptop and work from home. He wasn't really concerned about it. Okay. When he was asked by friends at the end of the day why no one had heard from Madeline Kingsbury, he said it really like, why are you worried about it? But here's the thing, Madeline Kingsbury was really very socially communicative. She had friends and family that she talked to every single day as routine. And it was really shortly after her disappearance, only hours, that people started questioning where she was because they weren't getting their regular phone calls. And so people started asking questions like right away. Um, This is the home that they lived in where the alleged crime of her demise occurred. Okay. They lived here. The story being said in the opening statements by prosecution was that Madeline Kingsbury they were moving out of this home. Her and the children were leaving. They got a new place. They were looking to move, that her and Adam were no longer in a relationship. They were still together because of the children until she found a new place. She wanted to wait until the lease was up. She was not confident that AdamFravel would keep the lease agreement and pay the rent. And since it was in her name, she didn't want anything to happen to it. This is all put together from information from talking to multiple sources of friends and family. You're going to hear that statement a lot, friends and family. It comes up in prosecution, in defense. Not exactly in the same light, but we'll get to that. When looking at the past into the documentation of text messages and the relationship back and forth, it seems that text messages in the statements of friends, messages to friends, phone calls with friends, and statements made to family all back up that that is where Madeline Kingsbury had been telling everyone, and that seemed to be in motion. There's also the she went and saw apartments that she had made arrangements, and it looked like that was going through. Apparently, their relationship, as far as cohabitors and being in an intimate relationship, was over, at least as far as Madeline Kingsbury was concerned. The problem arises is when discussing things with the detectives in the days after her disappearance. AdamFravel told a totally different story, and to this day still does. There was nothing wrong. They love each other. Everything was fine. You're making a big deal. People don't like me, and they don't want me with her, and that's why they're saying what they're saying. And what they're saying is that it was an abusive, contentious relationship that Madeline wouldn't really go into details with. There's testimony and affidavits filed about bruising, about wearing heavy winter type clothing in hot weather to hide marks. There is statements being made, stories told of incidences to different members, friends, and family. Everybody has pieces of the story. But what didn't happen is that during her relationship with AdamFravel, Madeline Kingsbury never reported any domestic abuse to any officials anywhere. There was never any domestic violence calls. There was no reporting whatsoever. Um, and that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means she wasn't disclosing it. That is not an uncommon thing in these cases. Is anyone who works with victims in advocacy or in the judicial system will know it is one of the most frustrating parts. The shame that comes along with being in an abusive relationship keeps people from actually telling the whole story. This is what the defense is keying in regards to Madeline Kingsbury. That she's not truthful because she never told anybody exactly what was going on. It's going to be a hard sell. This case is unique in a few areas in regards to that, and we're going to get to it. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about it. But for those not familiar with the case, there was a huge search for Madeline Kingsbury. This is a college town where she grew up, where she went to college. She still has her college friends. She's young. She's very popular. She's gregarious, friendly, kind. Thousands searched for her, which made the jury selection very difficult because a lot of people either were in the search party or actually knew of the search or participated or knew her or knew of somebody who knew her. It was very well known in the area of Winona. There was no way this trial could happen in Winona, which is why the defense won their motion to change venue and move it to Blue Earth, which they did, which is where the trial is being held now. And rightly so. You want AdamFravel, regardless of anything, regardless of the evidence, regardless of preconceived notions that we may have because of the type of case it is. He still deserves a fair trial, right? We all know that. Because that's actually justice. That means when he is found guilty, if he is, that he had a fair trial and that the verdict is true and the verdict is correct. And the evidence has been looked at by his peers, by reasonable people who say, yep, that's probably what happened. Bye. Okay. And you want that. That's justice. That's justice for Madeline. That's also justice for AdamFravel. Okay. That's justice for Madeline's family, for friends, for everybody. That's how the system works. So absolutely reasonable to move it. That's not a bad thing. There were some other things too, because the case is so popular. There is the issue that the defense went forward and said that, they've got these merchandise out there in support of Madeline that people are wearing to the hearings and stuff, T-shirts, wristbands, buttons that were in regards to domestic abuse, in regards to Madeline losing her life. This is the friends of Maddie, and they love her and they had every right to do it. But the judge ordered that they could not wear any of that in the courtroom or anywhere around because it's prejudicial to the defendant. And regardless of how we feel about that, Madeline not getting the support and the love, it would be prejudicial. And I think you guys could see that if it's a jury that doesn't know everything and they see all of this, it kind of paints him in a bad light before we prove he needs a bad light. And so you don't want anything visual or anything like that against it. It was a little prejudicial. Was it hard for everyone to hear? Absolutely. Especially with the next thing, the defense brought up. And by the way, the defense attorney is Zachary Bauer. And I will say this about him. As distasteful as his angle on defense is, no one could put it out that he's not doing his best for AdamFravel. If you were on trial, you would want somebody like Zachary Bauer, who is willing to cross lines and boundaries in popular public opinion and just get slung mud at him to defend your client and make sure that he gets the best chance that he gets, and he gets a fair and equitable trial. Because the next thing they did is that, well, there's such a thing about talking about the victim and who they were in a trial that, paints them in the glowing afterlife, so to speak. And he actually filed motions to keep that to a minimal, because talking positively about how great Madeline is and how well she was loved and who she was paints Adam automatically in a bad light because he's on trial. Now, I have my opinions about that. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say, if anything, but you have to admit That's really going over the boundaries of popular opinion there. They did find her body. I'm sorry, I did get sidetracked. I'm getting to that. So they did do the search. It took a very long time. It was a massive search. They went everywhere. Okay, they finally found the body quite far away, but they did not find the body. It was the investigator in the case who actually did the search at the home on the day that she was reported missing when they finally found the children, found the body. Fravel had filed for custody of his children, but they were denied, and they were with the parents of the stepmother and father of Maddie. These are those parents that have custody of the children right now. Okay. They've been caring for them along with her maternal mother that sees them, Christine. This was AdamFravel at the custody trial. Okay. The remains were found. I had to get through that to get here. She went missing on March 31st. The prosecution, in their opening statement, believed that that is the day that she died. The body was found on June 7th. It was suspected to be Madeline. It was from the investigating officer who did the actual search of the home originally. When the body was found, it was found wrapped in a sheet that matched the type and coloring of pillowcases and items that they saw in the home previously. It also had a blue towel wrapped around the head, and we're going to get into that when we talk about the medical examiner's testimony this week. That matched towel sets that were found in the bathroom in the properties of the home of Madeline and Adam. Okay. And there was black duct tape securing these items around the body that was also of the same width and brand as found in the home of Madeline and Adam. Okay. And it was this investigator following the route that AdamFravel said he took during his testimony, well, his interviews with them, his casual conversations with them, that he was home all day, but then he had to move some stuff to his parents, which was very close to where the body was found, just on the outskirts of their property. And to a storage unit, and that he had used her van to go back and forth with that. But apparently there was some video footage of not only neighbors in the neighborhood and also businesses all along that route that actually contradict all of the times and the time frames that AdamFravel is giving them in regards to this. And so in investigation of all of this, this investigator was taking the route down there. And even though that area had been searched a lot, and it does come up in the trial, they actually searched that area several times and nobody discovered the body. Granted, it is a very grassy, hilly area. It was very deep. There was logs and wood all over the area, and so it being actually very well covered and secluded. Okay, and it was just a shot in the dark. Then he kind of found it on the next time, because he was just going for that other look and just double checking everything and every time frame and every area that AdamFravel had said he was. And that is when the body got discovered. However, okay, even though the autopsy stated a cause of death as homicidal violence, AdamFravel was arrested that day when they discovered the body in the when the autopsy said homicidal violence, because from the beginning they've been looking at AdamFravel based on his statements, based on her last being seen where, based on interviews with the family and friends, and the contradiction between what Adam said and what they said about the personal relationship. I mean, they're like, okay, volatile relationship. She's getting ready to leave. She disappears. He's the only one in the house with her. Like, why wouldn't he be the primary subject, the suspect? That's just rational. So basically, all of the investigative efforts focused on AdamFravel. No other suspect. There wasn't any other information, though, provided to lead them anywhere else at the time. It's not like people were calling in tips saying they know who did it or that anything else came in. There is another party, a third party, and that would be a gentleman she's known for a while, that she saw for a little while during a breakup with Adam, and then actually stopped seeing him. But now that she was leaving Adam, she had already started to see this other gentleman, and he too was interviewed, but he's got a lock, stock, and barrel alibi, and it is supported. So actually, investigation into him stopped. The plausibility of him actually committing the murder and getting rid of the body wasn't possible in the time frame that they're looking at, that things had happened. So AdamFravel, although they did talk to this other gentleman, still remained the primary suspect. And that seems to be the focus of part of the defense's strategy in this case. Okay, so that's the answer. That was a good question, Milky, and thanks for getting me back on track, because I want to make sure that everybody new coming in knows. Okay, the timeline was on March 31st, she went missing. The case was called suspicious on the 5th when she never showed up. On the 7th, they started those massive searches almost a week later. On April 12th, AdamFravel finally comes forward and talks to the public. He hadn't done so before in regards to everybody we want to find Maddie, On May 5th, there's a candlelight vigil. On the 17th of May is the custody battle between the grandparents and AdamFravel, and he eventually lost. On June 6th, that custody case got solved, and on June 7th, the day after, Adam was arrested after the remains were found. Okay. So Adam's charged with first degree. Now, here's the interesting thing. In this case, Adam is charged with four charges of murder for one body. And it's actually very clever on the prosecution's part, because it guarantees that the jury has some leeway and enough information to go on, to go premeditated or not, okay, and to go first, whether it was within an act of violence or not, okay, because there are sentencing mitigations in regards to killing someone in the act of domestic violence. So it's murder in the first degree while committing domestic violence with past patterns of domestic abuse, which means if the prosecution successfully proves to the jury that AdamFravel had a history of mistreating Maddie with abuse, that there is documentation of some sort between the family and friends, through her activities, through whatever, that there was domestic abuse. But they got to prove it to be able to do the first one. The second one is murder in the first degree, that it was just premeditated, that he planned to get rid of her. Then there's murder in the second degree, okay, which does not include the premeditation. Okay, and then there is murder in the second degree without intent, which means, well, something along the lines of while committing a felony, which means like while beating her up, she died. We were having an argument. I laid hands on her. She fell down the stairs and died. Something of that nature. It is without intent. In other words, it wasn't premeditated murder. It was an escalated event, and she's dead. But she's dead at his hands. He actively participates in the result, if you know what I mean. Well, this actually, from watching the last trial, you can see that like when they do these step down charges, or they give them the multiple choices, it kind of helps them answer the questions in regards to the evidence that's being presented on what can be proved and what can't be proved. Because Madeline, there are no domestic violence calls. There is no hospital visits that are equated to domestic violence. There's none of this. There's no third-party reference to the domestic violence except for her family and the friends. Okay, there are some pretty dicey information, like a video call where someone actually witnessed the smacking. He's caught, doing it right in front of somebody because he doesn't realize that there's an active call going on. But that's not always 100% for a jury, and I'll tell you why in a moment. This is our judge, Judge Nancy Beitendorp. Okay, I always have trouble pronouncing his name, Beitendorp. Okay, she's been very fair. And she is actually trying to handle a very tumultuous case because there are a lot of there were 137 witnesses for the prosecution, and they're all family and friends. That kind of pressure with people that want want justice, and they're all looking at Adam. Okay, when Adam Fravel's defense attorneys push back, saying you're only looking at Adam and everybody's against Adam. Well, there's some truth in that statement because from the start they were looking at Adam like he was guilty. The whole investigation was only on Adam, and rightly so. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say they shouldn't have did that because absolutely, of course, they should. Why would they waste like going around looking? If there was more of anything else, they would have taken care of it. It's not their job to actually waste time, effort, and money when they've got a prime suspect who, by the way, isn't really making himself look good with his statements, his contrary statements, his interfering with the investigation a little bit. You know, he never got charged for it, but you know, trying to lead them in different areas. You know, he said he was at his parents, he wasn't, he was home. You know, his phone documentation for different times when he said he was here at this time and it's not, it's like way over here. And we're not talking minutes. Okay. We're not talking like, oops, I just didn't remember correctly. We're talking like purposely muddying the waters in confusing the issues here. Um, Especially the fact that when he did go to pick up the children the day of her disappearance without her, he knew she wasn't around. He still was telling people they shouldn't be concerned. It was unusual. It was out of character for her not to be there for the kids without contacting him and telling him there were other situations going on, or without anybody else knowing there were other things going on. Um, and he seemed flustered, agitated, in a different demeanor, and wearing different clothes when he picked up the children. And when the daughter asked where mom was, he became incredibly flustered. Flustered enough that they noticed. And it's all, by the way, on video. Okay, so there's testimony from the daycare people who obviously like Maddie. It's not that they don't like Adam, but now she's gone. And defense's attitude towards that testimony is, hey, you're prejudicial because you think he did it. Apparently, everyone who testifies for the prosecution is prejudicial because they're friends and families. They have information to give about the past relationship, and the defense is pushing back that the jury shouldn't believe them 100% because they're all coming in to testify with an agenda because they think Adam did it. Now, that's not uncommon. I mean, you know, you got one side of the story, or you're on one side or the other when you're a witness in a case. You can be as, you know, unbiased as you want, but the facts are the facts. And if you're on the prosecution team, your testimony is going to be more for the prosecution, especially if you're a friend and family of someone who is gone and that you cared about. Well, the defense's point and their strategy as they're moving forward this case, which every day has become quite prominent in their cross-examination, is focusing on the fact and hammering it into the jury whether or not the testimonies are credible because of how they felt about Madeline. Are they remembering things? Is it revisionist history? And that is a term. I got a little article here for you guys that like to read up on this kind of stuff. Since they don't have court documents, they did do some research into like what they're doing in the courtroom. And basically, the defense, their three-part strategy is the prosecution had tunnel vision, secrets of truth, the difference between the relationship as stated by Adam and Madeline to her friends, and revisionist history. Everybody's just putting a spin on it to make Adam look bad. Now, when they talk about the secrets of truth part of this defense, I will say I get a little bit uncomfortable because I'm not one who likes when they put the murder victim on trial. And basically, that's what they're doing. He's saying that Madeline wasn't really forthcoming to everyone exactly the same in regards to her relationship with this new person. She took a while to tell people. Some people she told in January, some people she just told the week before she died. You know, I don't really find that unusual. We all have levels of friendship with people and trust with people, and so we're going to tell a little different. He also uses one of the incidents of abuse that was talked about to her family and to her friends, apparently. And it came out today because Madeline's family, her father, her biological mother, and her stepmother all took the stand today. And her sisters may take the stand tomorrow. And they were told about an incident to where, in front of the children, Adam choked her and threw her to the ground. And that was one of the deciding factors on Madeline leaving. That what had been just smacking, not in front of the children or whatever, and here and there, was now in front to the children, and the children now of an age to notice. And when she tells the story about her daughter to one of her friends actually noticing this, it became clear to her. She had been making excuses for the behavior, and that it was time for a change. She was done with it. And she was afraid. She said that there was testimony from other friends about her mood and about her tensions in the beginning. And a lot of that got stricken by the judge because of this revisionist history or tunnel vision kind of act and secrets of the truth. That we only know what they're saying Madeline said. And so they're trying to find it all in text messages and concrete proof, for just to, you know, document it in some way so it's not like hearsay, because Madeline's not here to talk about it. Okay. Well, they're actually going against Madeline's credibility with almost every witness and the witness's credibility. And it's very hard for a family to hear. Well, they were on the stand today, and it was kind of heartbreaking because they don't have their daughter with them anymore. They have to face AdamFravel and a defense attorney, and they have to tell the stories about how Madeline didn't want to press charges. Even after an event like this, and they're all counseling her, like, you need to do something, and she won't. And this is the point where you come into these domestic violence cases where, if because of the shame of it, because they're afraid of further, because of the conflict of somebody you love in an intimate partnership relationship is hurting you, but you have children with them, you have a relationship, you don't want it to get worse, you want it to get better. Some of them even think if they do the right thing, like it's going to get better, that it is their fault. Like, it's very complex. Not everybody wants to come forward right away. Not everybody thinks it's their best interest right away. And she said she would think about it, but she always just pushed it off. She would cut the conversation. Okay. But anyway, the date of this incident that had happened, when Madeline had told her family about it, they immediately came and got her and took her and the children away for a couple of days. The incident was that upsetting to everyone involved that they removed her from the situation, that she removed herself from the situation, which that could go over very well with a jury. But again, the defense came back to say, like, but she didn't report it, nor did any of you report it for her. Now, they were all honoring her wishes. They wanted to, per their testimony. It's a tough place to be in, but you can see where I'm going here. There's like, no matter how they lay out the evidence that there was abuse, it's going to be hard to prove there was actual abuse. And some of these charges are going to get knocked off in aggravating factors, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. Because how can a jury actually confirm it without tangible evidence? We just got taught. It's not to say that they can't, because there's been plenty of times circumstantial evidence and just the testimony of a witness has been very credible for a jury, and they have moved forward with it. Let's talk Sarah Boone for a second. Her testimony about everything that happened wasn't credible to the jury. Okay. The videos she made in regards to how the situation was that she thought were damaging against George actually were damaging against her. The jury took it the totally other way, as did most of us watching. That George was actually a victim of abuse. Sarah did get pushback. We're not saying nothing ever happened to her, but it wasn't as she portrayed it on the witness stand, and it seemed evident to the jury. So that's my point, that they can go either way. Now you could have somebody that's been through the whole thing sitting there telling you the whole story, and it's going to be whether they believe you or not. If you don't have things to back it up, you know, credible. And even sometimes when you do, they may not believe the story you're telling in regards to that evidence. You know, the case just gets more and more fascinating. It really does. I'm going to go through this stuff really quickly. So the trial started. It's supposed to go through to November 1st, but it's already a week behind. Now, they are saying that the prosecution is going to rest their case probably tomorrow. I just told you that friends and family have been testifying in regards to what they saw in of the abuse of the relationship and the kind of person that Madeline is. And the judge has already restricted some of the positive information that normally the prosecutions would try to represent when the friends and families are on there. Mostly, this was the judge's decision on it, that a lot of it was redundant. She has no problem with people close to Madeline talking about it. Generally, was she a good person? Was she known to lie? Was she trustworthy? You know, things like that. For character, because if the defense is going to go at her character, then the prosecution obviously can lay out a case for her character if the defense is going to be putting up one against it. And that's all fair, but they wanted to make sure it wasn't redundant. I mean, this prosecution had said they wanted to put out 137 witnesses, and that the judge had an issue with. If they were going to keep talking about this one instance where he put his hands on her throat and threw her down, that she told multiple people, how many people needed to come in and tell us about that was the point. And the defense might have had a point there. It would have been slamming it and over prejudicial to bring in 20 people telling the same story. A fact is a fact. Enter the fact into evidence. If you need a couple of people to support it for the issue where I could see, well, the prosecution wants to make the point that it was so upsetting to Madeline that she told a bunch of people. You can do that with a couple of people. You don't need to do it with like 137, you know. It was my point. Okay. All right. Let me just get down. Well, we went over that. Okay. So, it's 157. Sorry, not 37. Okay. The defense, on the other hand, had 23 witnesses the last time we did an update. Yesterday's documentation said they could be bringing up to 30 people to contest against the information. So, let me just bring this down now. First, I wanted to. Let me just bring it down and put me back up here. I want to be round. I don't want to be rectangular anymore. I like round. Hey, Jen. Hey, Beck. Hey, Juju. Hey, Paula. Hey, everybody that's been coming in that I didn't get to see. Okay. Hi, Cinnamon. It's good to see you here. Great name, by the way. Wonderful warm spice, especially this time of year. Okay, this case is really crazy. Okay. I like this, Jen. Hard to not be prejudiced witness if she was as well known and well loved as the prosecution claims. Exactly. And it does become upsetting to everybody. And I'm glad you're picking up on that. But it is an excellent defense point to keep hammering on, especially in front of the jury, because they're kind of like picking it away. They're putting that doubt in there. Are you guys just like him? Like, are you all telling the truth? Now, I don't think they're necessarily going to doubt the witnesses, but if I was on the jury, just answer me this, guys. Wouldn't you be looking very careful at their statements to make sure they're all matching up? Or are they matching up too well? Are there inconsistencies? Are there normal inconsistencies? You know, I would imagine there'd be normal inconsistencies, especially in a domestic violence case where the person doesn't necessarily is feeling shame and doesn't want everybody to know everything. Is going to be telling this one a little piece and that one a little piece. This is very, very common with domestic abuse victims. Very common. In those working in advocacy know this. You know, I read about this all the time. That is very, very common. So you're not going to have perfectly matched up stories, or you shouldn't. Well, that's what the defense is trying to make the jury look for. And they're being very bold about it. You look for the consistencies to the start. They're all working together to tell the same story, to hammer it home. There's no, you know what I mean? So they're working that to their advantage. Sometimes I do as well put too much spin on such evidence as the same sheets and towels wrapped around is found in the home. Well, I think that is actually slam dunk evidence because there is a mattress in the home that's missing a sheet and there's not a full set of towels anymore. So it's more than likely because they're all the same, and plus there's two items that are the same from the same house and they're both kind of missing. Eh, okay, so let's get to the medical examiner's testimony. Let's go over some of the things the prosecution brought forth. I already talked about cell phone data that was inconsistent, that matched up with video data, that he did drive the van. He was on the road. When he said he wasn't on the road, he was near the dump site of the body. I have to call it a dump site because it's not the crime scene. We don't know if that's the actual crime scene, okay, based on the condition of the body, because look at the time difference. I mean, March 31st to June 7th. You can imagine the condition of the body. It was hot. It was wrapped, buried, sweltering, and decomposing. The ME had to testify that, yes, it was homicidal violence because they do believe that Madeline Kingsbury died of asphyxiation, and there were some things that led to that conclusion. A slip knot in the towel that was wrapped around her head and her throat. A slip knot, okay? It could have been used to strangle her, okay? But we have no evidence of domestic violence because the body is in such a decomposed state. We can't tell if she was beat. We can't tell if she had any other injuries. We do know she wasn't stabbed or shot because even during decomposing, that would lead to certain injuries that they could tell. So this medical examiner had to say that homicidal violence was the definition based on circumstance and no other clues on the body to prove otherwise. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It's reasonable to do that, but it doesn't give you anything concrete to say somebody did that, okay? It leaves the window open to believe that perhaps Madeline died and he just disposed of the body. Now, had he been confessing to that, they probably wouldn't have a doubt to it. Except for that slip knot thing, he could just say that he was just trying to cover up her head and he put that slip knot there, just to keep the towel there so he didn't see her face because he was so upset. And I'm extrapolating here. This is nothing he said. I'm just saying why it's such a big opening for the defense in regards to the medical examiner's testimony. Because although we know she died, we know she more than likely did not die from her own hands. We don't know how, except for the fact that because there are no other wounds, the heart did not have a heart attack. There is no other stress throughout the body that it was asphyxiation. She died from lack of oxygen, whether she was strangled. But the body is so decomposed, we have no marks on the neck. We have no crushed anything to go by. So it was really just a lack of oxygen. We don't have a crushed larynx. We don't have a crushed neck. It wasn't overly forced, which the medical examiner, when with the prosecution, did say that could be because of the towel, because when you're using another arm, there'd be no real extra exerted force. You could suffocate somebody this way. But so although they had homicidal violence on the death certificate, the actual testimony for the prosecution from the medical examiner could go either way with the jury. Do you see what I mean? And please put your comments in the chat. Like, I'm willing to go back and forth. I'm only talking about mine. Hello, Karen. I agree. I always say this to Karen all the time, Paula. Are you aware that your name is being used in a negative way and you should start a class action suit? Exactly. It would be always, yes, that would be something. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra. Okay. And Rocket Couch says, remember that a defendant having a good district attorney is a good thing, even if it's frustrating. A good attorney will make sure the prosecution has done their job. I think you don't mean DA, you mean, oh yes, you mean DA, you mean defense attorney. I read it wrong. You wrote it right. I read it wrong. My apologies, Rocket Couch. Absolutely. And this is a private attorney and he's earning his money. He's fighting tooth and nail for a good outcome here to make sure they for AdamFravel. And he's casting as much doubt on all the evidence as he can. Now he cannot actually cast a lot of doubt on the physical evidence. Okay. There is testimony that Madeline put out to friends and family that there were video cameras in their home and that she was being watched the last days before her disappearance. She talked about that more often, that he watched every mood. She had to be careful what she said. She was trying not to set him off. She wanted to move out peacefully, and she needed a couple more days. And he was getting standing around over. There was testimony that she said to a friend that he was standing over her a lot. He was being just weird and confrontational a little bit and getting very intimidating. And this is the kind of evidence that the prosecution is trying to put out, the defense objects to, and sometimes the judge is going with it, saying, nope, overly prejudicial, like hearsay, we don't know, like what's the other, is it in a text, is it whatever? Because what they're trying to eliminate is people just getting on the stand and saying like all this stuff that can't be substantiated, just putting it all out into the air. The defense has been very, very hard about that, aggressively. Okay. And because it's prejudicial and looking for foundation, looking for document, calling out hearsay, calling out not that facts, not in evidence, like you name it, very aggressively. And so that's been squelched down by the judge even before the trial started. So they have to be careful there, the prosecution, in regards to that, and in regards to redundancy. But that's all been put in the fact that when the officers came to interview Adam again, that there were no cameras in the house. There was repairs to the walls, but there were no cameras anymore. There was no evidence of anything. The app was deleted. The app that was on Maddie's phone for the cameras was deleted on Adam's, and the account is gone. So there isn't even backups of any of it. And then I do believe I told you that the evidence from the cameras that were all over his parents' property, where the body was very close found, that would actually assist the investigation. Although they originally, when they were looking for Maddie, gave them the actual footage to look at, they rescinded permission to have it once they realized Adam told them that they were at their house. And perhaps that video footage would confirm he wasn't. I'm not saying that was their decision. All I know is that they rescinded. And that those videos went away too. And without being able to subpoena them or knowing there's any reasonable cause to find it, now they have the body. They also have cell phone data of Adam's own, and they have plenty of CCTV from businesses all along the way, along the route it was driven, in the local neighborhood. Actual from the people across the street, CCTV of Adam actually being the one that entered into the van, or actually, I should say, a man leaving the house that looks like AdamFravel got into the van and drove the van and drove Maddie's van away, because they don't have facial recognition on it. But in order for it to be somebody else, and for Adam's alibi to be that he was in the house, he would have known who it was, and he should be testifying who it is or giving a statement, but he's not. He just not talking about it. Okay. So they do have the cell phone data. They have CC camera TV. They got a lot of technology data that actually just really doesn't point to him doing something except for leaving the scene. But what it really does is point to the inconsistencies in all of his statements, and that Adam has purposely been misleading the investigation all along. He's not telling the truth about where he was and what he was doing. And that is being portrayed to the juror and making him look bad in that light. Like, why is he? The defense still has to present their case at the end of the week and through next week. And I would imagine they're going to come forward and say, of course he was. He was nervous because they're looking at him that he's the killer. And, he misspoke or this, that, or the other thing. But it still gives him, they're proving motive. They're proving availability, that he's got the means. He has access to her and he's capable. Okay. And now he's just like his stories are inconsistent. He's looking a little guilty. The second interview they did with AdamFravel, they remarked that he had marks like he had marks on his face when they went to talk to him. That it looked like he had been in a scuffle. In which is why it's so disconcerting. The body was so decomposed because they can't tell if that scuffle could have been with Madeline, but they do know something happened with him, and he's not talking about it. He has no explanation for it. But it was noted in the investigative report. Okay, so we have the family, we have the friends, we have the medical examiner, we have the primary investigator who took the stand and talked about the evidence in the house and the things that they found. And that was pretty pertinent. We've had a prosecution team. I'm going to try to say this name, and it's like really, really hard. It's a Propokowitz, okay, is the head prosecutor here. And they are trying to get all the law enforcement in there, get all the family and friends in there. They're presenting their case. It's going to be wrapping up. They brought in the pivotal witness of Daniel Dornick, who was that lead investigator I talked about, who found the remains wrapped and secured with the tape, which is a significant detail. It's pretty hard evidence. It's concrete evidence that they can keep going back to. Some will say, well, you can't prove it's the exact sheet. Well, pretty much you can. And pretty much, yes, they can. Did they bother to do all that kind of expert analysis? Maybe not. But like I said, when the medical examiner got up there, Dr. Russ Wanwalt, and he wasn't able to state whether she had been beaten because of the condition of her body, but she did say it was found wrapped in the bed sheet and what it matched, signs pointing to asphyxiation as the probable cause, though decomposition limited the exact determination. Okay. They highlighted that towel was found the towel that was found on her body with the slip knot matched all of those seen in the photos from their home, the Fravel and Kingsbury home, and they proved that to the jury. One key moment that was talked about in the media and with the news was that the defense actually questioned the medical examiner on how do you know it was a slip knot? And the answer was pretty direct. I untied it myself, sir. Which is a startling answer in one act, because now you're like, it to me, it hammers it home to the jury that this is the person who saw her body that has the expertise to make these kind of decisions. And that just proves they're the one touching it. That's the condition it was in. They actually had to untie a knot from around her throat. And to me, that kind of stuck out. If I was on the jury, that would matter to me. That would. Towels don't just tie themselves in knots around people's throats. And, the normal average person doesn't really tie one like that around their throat, just for shits and giggles, so to speak. Okay, so let me see what other little detail on the prosecution before we start some more about this. So we're going to go for another week. We did talk about the difference between the first-degree murder charges and the second-degree murder charges, and the levels of second-degree murder charges are in 2 levels also. And it does provide a good alternative for the jury if they believe Fravel killed Kingsbury intentionally, but without premeditation or under any other circumstances, that he is still involved directly. They don't see evidence of how he did anything, but they could still convict him of murder. I mean, having these 4 layers of charges mean I don't need to prove that you put your hands on her throat. I don't need to see fingerprints. I don't need anything. I mean, the law is clear that if they just feel that circumstantial evidence indicates that it was mold and probably him. They don't have to say like I got to prove it concretely with the evidence. It's like, yep, second degree. Um, I think he meant the killer. I think he got the means, the motive, and the opportunity. In this case, it's the opportunity that pretty well sticks out there as a positive to the jury. There's no doubt that the last person to see Madeline Kingsbury was AdamFravel. Not all the single person got a phone call, a message, no CCTV. The only one that's seen exiting that house after they got home is Adam. That the jury will be able to hang on to. There's plenty of the timeline inconsistencies, and they've used landowners and business owners all the way down the route to where the body was found to prove that. And like I said, basically the whole case is on the conflicting statements of AdamFravel in the documentation and evidence that actually proves that. Okay, because there's all this surveillance footage and documentation that goes against everything he said about his alibi. He said he was at his parents' home and then he was home and then he was traveling back and forth. And yes, he was traveling, but he never made it to his parents' home. There's actually documentation that he turned around and never made it to his parents' home and went back and forth. They have him driving the Polaris Ranger on April 9th near the area where Kingsbury's body was found. And this all challenges like the statement of his whereabouts and his travels, because they had gone through like the whole time she was missing, and he's just consistently always given them a different story than where he actually was. His own cell phone data documentation reveals activity and locations, and at times that conflict all the accounts of his events. And they can actually put him in the vicinity of the crime scene when he claims he was elsewhere. There's also very incriminating text messages between Fravel and Kingsbury. And I want to talk about that for a moment because they can go both ways. They go against Fravel extremely because he's telling the officers repeatedly that there was nothing wrong with their relationship. They had the normal ups and downs, but they were in love. She wasn't leaving. They were working things out. Never bothered to tell them anything about anything else. Okay. There's the testimony of the friends and family that say otherwise. And then there's the text messages back and forth between Madeline and Adam that also say otherwise. Okay. They show escalating tensions, possible threats, totally in contrast to what he is asserting of a peaceful relationship with no issues or anything like that. The prosecution keeps arguing that it's these inconsistencies that undermine Adam's credibility. We've got camera footage at the daycare center. We got the missing camera footage at home. Okay. All right. So basically, during all of the prosecution's witnesses, defense's main focus during cross-examination for each witness has been to question the reliability and thoroughness of the investigation when it comes to the medical examiner and all the law enforcement and all of the testing that's involved. And they've been hammering it home. They said that they had tunnel vision. They said you didn't bother to look. This is lazy investigation. You just found somebody you wanted to pin it on, and that was it. And that's not appropriate. That's prejudicial to my client, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying. They just keep hammering it home. Tunnel vision, tunnel vision, tunnel vision. That Adam was the only suspect. And they are also challenging inconsistency in witness statements, questioning the lack of certain physical evidence. In other words, where are the pictures of Madeline's bruises? Disputing interruptions of forensic findings, particularly around the cause of death and the alleged signs of domestic violence. In other words, we got no real evidence, physical evidence of domestic violence here. And you can't prove it with the body either. And then going at the medical examiner you don't even know if that's exactly what she died of. It is actually a cause listed because nothing else was there. And they had to say that on the stand, that the process to get to asphyxiation was through all of these other, looking at the organs and checking the blood and, the tissue and everything that they could. And it's a process of elimination. It's a valid reason. And it's documented by medical examiner procedures, and standard protocol. However, it does put doubt in the jury, like, well, that's such a process. That's all you had left. So that's what you said. But you don't absolutely know 100% for sure. And that's true because of the condition of the body. They had the witness testimony. They have a lot of witnesses constantly were actually bringing up the fact of how she wore clothing to hide her neck a lot. Okay. But based on what the defense is based to put forward, they have two things that really kind of startled me, and I'm waiting for them to get entered into evidence. But we might as well talk about them because we can't be there in court. But basically, the defense's answer to why Madeline would be covering her up her neck is because it's embarrassing, because Adam and Madeline practiced rough sex. That the choking could have definitely been part of personal relations that they have, intimate partner relationships, and it's private. And that they have her searched, and one time, Madeline searched in her search history before she went missing the words rough sex. Mm. It mm. And they're going to bring it in. And the family was very upset about that. But I mean, they can't, because if they're going to enter all the searching, because they used that to prove she was looking for an apartment. They used that to prove that she was looking for ways to explain to Adam that she was leaving. There was a lot of searches on there on how to leave a relationship, on how to discuss the end, how to co-parent with a partner you're no longer with, how to co-parent successfully. And she was like, she Googled a lot, and she was looking at all of this, and she had a plan. And if the prosecution is going to use that as their evidence in there, as her moving forward and to contest what Adam says about the relationship, well, then the defense is going to use the search for rough sex and the fact that she was already in another relationship, and that she had seen that person during a break prior, or when, because in the testimony it comes up that Adam and Madeline broke up a lot over the years, over the 8 or so years that they were together on and off. And they got together since college, and they broke up here and there. He would go to his parents' house, or she would go, somewhere else, but they would eventually just get back together within a short period of time. And it could be that Adam actually thought that they would get back together. But during one of these breaks, at the winter, at the end of the year, going into the beginning of the year, she did start to see someone she used to see from high school, a friend. And that who she stayed in contact with and was friendly because of friend circles and etc. But they just became closer. The only eyewitness abuse that comes in is one of her friends who testifies to Adam actually laying hands, smacking Madeline while on a FaceTime call. However, the defense did a pretty good job of putting some doubt out there too, as to, are you sure that's what you saw? Do you have it videotaped? And that's just your interpretation based on other things that people are saying. So there's like that kernel, planting that seed of doubt. But this is an eyewitness who actually saw the laying of hands. And how credible the jury thinks that is will depend on the demeanor of the witness and everything that we didn't all get to see. So we don't really get to weigh in on that. But it could go either way. I mean, I see it as, everybody's telling a story. Now I've got somebody who actually saw something, I don't think that, I find it hard to believe that all of these people who knew Madeline all got together in some big union hall somewhere and had a let's screw Adam Fravel for this meeting. I mean, to me, that just seems a little ridiculous. I mean, are they a little prejudicial because of their love for Madeline, the friendship, and this, that they know that there was something wrong? They've heard for years about a tumultuous relationship. They heard for years little bits here and there about him doing bad things to her, and trying to move her forward. She had one friend that she literally was like thinking that she was really ready, like talking to her about, where you can go, how you could come stay with me. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do it this way. But Madeline was always pushing back, saying she was trying to find a way to not take their father away from her children, and to try to not be with him, but still let him be a father to the children. And she didn't want to take that right away from him, and she didn't want to take a father away from the children either. And so she was conflicted. At least that is what she was stating. That is what they are stating. She was stating to them. Um, so the slap that was on Facebook actually supports the narrative that's going through. The parents that had to drive more than an hour, I think almost an hour, to get to Madeline when she was so upset about the choking incident. And she talked to them and they heard her voice, and she was that upset that the dad immediately, told his wife, like, we're getting in the car, we're going, we got to go to Madeline. And they did. And they talked to her in a restaurant, in a neutral place, and convinced her to come home with them based on, what information they could get out. Um, from all accounts today, that was very tumultuous for the father to relay. It was quite upsetting. He was visually upset when he was talking about it because he wasn't successful in getting Madeline to press charges, or he did get her to come home and stay there for 3 or 4 days. However, she did actually return back to the home with AdamFravel, and he doesn't like AdamFravel, and he admitted that on the witness stand. And he talked about an incident, a holiday or so before, where he stopped talking to him based on things that had happened because he just did not feel he was being respectful about the relationship, and he thought he could do better to his daughter. Just not uncommon for a dad to think. The jury could take that either way, but I'm sure they could see the emotion that he feels some responsibility for not doing a little bit more. But really, what can you do with grown children? All right. So as of today, the defense have not put forward that AdamFravel will be taking the witness stand. He's not publicly stated either way whether he will or he won't. His defense attorney has emphasized the importance of listening to the evidence, indicating that they will present a significant number of witnesses over the next week, and they have upped theirs to like 75. It was at what, 30 some odd, and now they're saying maybe 30, 75. I doubt the judge is going to allow all of it, the same as with the prosecution. And over the course of the trial, however, there's been no confirmation or announcement anyway in regards to Fravel actually coming forward and testifying. And let me just put this. This is Adam, and this is Judge. And this is Zach Bauer. This is the law firm that he works for. He's a private attorney. His voice is so calming. Like, I saw a video of him talking. As a matter of fact, I can share that with you. You can, like, I think you can hear him. Do I have that one here? No. Nope, I don't. But anyway, there's one on that site. And here is the actual video in regards to the testimony of the family today and how heart-wrenching it was. That's from a news organization in the area. Okay, and I gave you that other article. So there we go with that. All right, so let me just go through the chat. Let me bring this down. Again, it's ongoing. We're going to talk about it at the end with the defense once I go to closing statements. Well, let me just pull up the chat here. When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember a lie. This is true. Towels aren't that good of evidence I have towels that look like the ones in hundreds of motels around. Never mind that they're where they came from. Except for these were turquoise. So I would have to go against that, Jin. It was pretty evident they came from the home if they match the set. A lot of us have colored towels that are easy based on pile and consistency, and there is evidence that the towel matches the towels in the home. So they did go a little bit further with that. But it's not always. I mean, it's a good predictor. I don't blame the judge for. I mean, I don't blame the investigator for slam dunking on that one and making sure everything got tested. You know. I agree with Eugene about marks on the neck, hickeys, all of that, bruising. I don't think these were the kind of things. I mean, you bring up a valid point. I mean, is the defense going to go there? That her wearing a turtleneck in summer was hickeys. I mean, but they're not. Maybe, maybe. Well, it's a difficult case based on the physical evidence that's left. I'll say that. Okay, so the last one I have to talk about. Oh boy, you guys are really not gonna like this. Okay, no, okay, Juju. Mandy's not here. She would be the one completely yelling at me right now that we have to talk about this person, but we do. We just absolutely do. If you guys don't have any other questions in regards to the Fravel case, I'm going to move on for the last few minutes. Yes. LoriVallow Daybell. Yeah, Hurricane. In regards to her charges that are in Arizona, okay, the case, she was supposed to go to trial in February of 2025. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that the date of the trial and all further hearings have been scrapped from the schedule. She has been charged with the death, conspiracy charges related to the death of her, the 2019 death of her former husband, Charles Vallow, and an attempt on her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Bordeaux. These are separate charges. These are separate cases. Okay. And there's some going back and forth on whether they'll be tried in one trial. Okay. But they are separate cases. In other words, they can have one trial and they'll have two verdict slips for the charges. Do you know what I mean? For this and for that. Okay. Not separate slips, but on the charges will all be listed separately and they'll have to decide. But that hasn't actually come to fruition yet. Okay. Not at all. She had a defense team. Keith Terry, the public defender that was handling her case, filed last week to the court the request for a mental health evaluation on Lori. And well, we've been here before. Didn't that happen in the first one in Idaho that she was convicted of the murders, conspiracy to murder Ty Lee and JJ and Tammy Daybell, and also insurance fraud and a couple other things. Okay. Um, and she's got life sentences. She's not getting out. She is in appeal. Granted, there's always an appeal. She is appealing. Okay. Well, this public defender is handling this thing in Arizona, and he has put forward for a mental health evaluation, which the judge, and let me see if I can find this judge's name. I had it here. The judge ordered the mental competency about a week ago, and then she is actually there now handling it. She actually faces both two counts of the conspiracy to commit murder. One for Charles and one for Brandon, as we said. Okay, the details regard stem from incidences that occur in 2019, where her brother Alex is alleged to have played a significant role. Alex Cox admitted to shooting Charles Vallow. But the conspiracy charge says that that's going to be because of LoriVallow, and LoriVallow had a lot to do with it. Okay, so the judge has actually ordered mental competency in this case, and her attorneys are required to submit her medical and criminal records for the evaluation pretty quick. There will be two mental health examiner officials that will actually do the examination. It won't just be one, and we're hoping that this all gets tied up, within the month. But it doesn't really look like that since they actually scrapped everything from the schedule. Okay. Um, her mental health also became a huge issue with the last trial. It seems to be a recurring theme in her legal battles, but it kind of gets a little bit worse. Okay. If she is declared to be competent, based on all of this, Lori has also set forth that she wanted her attorney dismissed from her case, as LoriVallow intends to go pro se. Mm-hmm. Don't throw anything up here at me, people. Yeah, LoriVallow. Yeah, her she wants to go pro se. Yeah, and that's really well I've got to say about that. That's your update on LoriVallow. If you don't have any questions, because I'm gobsmacked like that she wants to actually go pro se. But then again, when you're this delusional with the beliefs that she has, and if anybody has listened to the phone calls with her and her son, and her son has a YouTube channel now, Ryan, and he has been putting some stuff out, how heartbreaking it is, but how delusional she still is about the whole situation. Um, the fact that she wants to go pro se is really mind boggling. Like, but it's predictable because crazy go to crazy, and crazy needs a pedestal, like it needs a podium, and hmm. Is the judge taking a page from Eileen Cannon? Probably just stripped everything off of there, was like, let's see what happens here. She is not allowed to pro se because of the seriousness of the charges. I do believe they are going to deny. You're right, and we have to look that up in Arizona. I've been hard pressed to find a definitive on it quiz, but in Arizona, apparently, as long as they have people that she like, as long as they have attorneys that can be there for her. She's not on for the death penalty. So if it was the death penalty, there's no way they would allow her. Absolutely, I did find that in hardcore writing, no way. But even in murder, she can go pro se, but there are some legal ramifications that have to be settled. And I'm gonna do another stream on that and lay that all out, because unfortunately, I was not able to find a definitive. I see it both ways. Like, all the information I'm finding, it could go both ways. But you're right, quiz. It doesn't make any sense allowing someone with this serious of charges, to go pro se. But actually, they're not saying she committed the murder. They're saying she conspired against it. Okay, the seriousness of the charges does come into play, but because it's conspiracy, there's a good possibility that she could, you know. Anna says, let her and she'll lose. We'll be done with her. Well, we're done with her, but she's never getting out of prison unless that appeal gets overturned. And I don't really see it happening. She had very good attorneys, and they did what they could for her. Or they presented, as much as they could. And it was the conspiracy, I was surprised. I know it was a volatile case. It involves children, the horrendousness of the actual case, the crimes, were definitely a factor in this, and it became very emotional for a lot of people. I know that was a hard one for me to cover. And these charges here are all related to that, and it's the same time frame. It's all kind of involved together, all the same key players. Brandon Bordeaux is the ex of her niece, Melanie, and the testimony in both Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell's trials, like, there was evidence that there was a pushback on Brandon, and there was an attempt on his life, and there's already been evidence presented, and that evidence is going to be the same evidence in Arizona, redone, reworked, redone over. But yeah, you mean Ryan? Yeah, poor kid has to both deal with everything he grew up in around to what his mom and Chad did, and he still loves his mom and wants her to get good representation, but she wants to go pro se. That is going to be hard for the family, I admit. Oh, thank you for that. Um, so well, guys, like if that's that on that, I'll look for questions. But now I'm just gonna go to channel updates and try to end this at 9 o'clock, like a reasonable bear. We'll see if it takes 20 minutes, huh? But anyway, for channel updates for this week, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing another true crime update during the week, but I can tell you what we're doing Friday for Halloween. We are going to have a Halloween stream. In the what the F slot, it will be at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course, Mipid and Mrs. Cassandra will be there. And we don't know for sure about record yet because of university, but wait a minute, quiz. What big case are you talking about? I've been streaming and I've been researching this, so I don't know. You could put it in chat though, but of course, I'm not going to have any information about this because I don't know what you're talking about. But it's huge in Hollywood. Yeah, probably. And I might be talking about it this week, but that's what I meant, you know. But Friday, we're going to be doing a Halloween stream, and we're going to be doing a read for you guys, a Halloween read, and I'm so excited about it. And I hope that you all can come over there and hang out in the chat, and we can tell scary stories, and we can do some stuff. It's going to be a little bit different. I want you to come, but we don't know which one it is yet because there's some voting going on. So hit the community tab or Twitter, or if you're in the Discord, come and vote in the book room in regards to what we're going to be reading. No, there was no new motion in the Boone case except for that she's going for appeal because that's settled there. Quiz, what are you doing? Quiz, are you trolling me? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Like, stop it. Okay, let's talk after. Anyway, you're just trying to get my attention down there, you know? You're trying to get me past 8 o'clock. I'm not going past 9 o'clock. I got another 6 minutes to finish my channel updates because I want to talk about Sunday too. Okay, and Sunday like is a project I'm working on. We're not going to do Bear and B in nothing. We are going to actually have a stream, and I was kind of hesitant to do a stream for the milestone of 5K subscribers. But after having a channel for more than 3 years out here and working that hard for those 5K, I said, well, why not? But I didn't want to make it about me, even though like the 5K is kind of like my channel. So we're going to have a creator community stream with a lot of different people coming and talking about their channels. And we're going to have, we're going to have music and videos and discussions. We're going to have discussions about hurricane relief. We're going to have discussions about mental health. We're going to have some discussions with different panelists about all kinds of issues, all based on their channels and what they do, and the positivity and good things they try to put out here, their hobbies, how they look at community, and just try to come together and celebrate something, in a good way. Because in all honesty, since the day I started my channel, it's been my goal is to be supportive of small creators of all levels, in supporter of YouTube as a platform where everybody can do something. Like there's room for everybody. Like, that true crime is a very crowded field, but I still support and promote all the other people doing true crime. Well, some of them get on my nerves the way they do it, and I'm pretty vocal about that. But it doesn't mean I don't want them to have the right to do it. Like they have the right to do it their way, and I support that platform. So it's just going to be a celebration of all of the people who helped me along the way, get my voice out here, who actually thought I had something to contribute to their own shows, in their own panels, or collaborated with me. All of you that worked with me, quiz on some of my shows, come on, you guys being my mods, you guys being in the chat. It's kind of like celebrating everybody and just what we do out here in regards to building a community and a place to go for all different types of reasons. Just want to celebrate all the other creators that I know around me that do it, that have the time to show up and just want to talk about this kind of stuff. So I hope if you have time, you can come around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard is when it will start on Sunday. But it will go for quite a few hours because we've got people coming at all different times. And there will be different people up at panel on all different times. There isn't really a set schedule yet because I'm still working on it. But I am very excited about it. And I hope that if you have the time for as little time as you can, just stop by and give these creators a nod. And once we get the list out there of all who they are, I hope that you'll go check out some of their content if you're interested in it. Because, I really want to support. I really want to support anyone who's out here, doing their thing, putting whatever it is out here that they feel passionate about and not hurting others. You know what I mean? Like, because there are some parts of YouTube that, well, they don't really care about that. And well, I do. I want to do my hobby and not hurt anybody in regards to it. And I want to promote every other damn creator that's on that path, because I think it's important, It's gonna be a party. I hope so, Mippet. And yeah, Quiz. Quiz wants to know if you can be naked. Of course you can. You're an avatar. You can be as naked as you want. And I really hope you're going to be there, Quiz, because I'm really looking forward to it. Mippet too. Mippet, I know it's a crazy time of the day for you, so like I get it. Like I totally get it. And I realize the pressure for people to show up. So hopefully some mods will be there. I want old mods, new mods, I want subscribers, members, and collaborators everywhere. Um, if they can. I've got a lot of invites out. It's hard to make each one personalized, but I put a post out on Twitter when this happened, and I meant every word of it. I thank everybody from the past, everybody in the present, because like this is not something I did alone. This is not something I did alone at all. This is something that became possible only because of all of you, every single one of you. You all contributed in some way, even if you just listen to me. Even if you send me a constructive criticism, not so constructive criticism. As a matter of fact, I even thanked my haters because they allow me to show what is really important about all of this, and that is doing your thing and not hurting anybody else while you're doing it, and just keep on keeping on, and just trying to put out a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of something that makes me happy that perhaps you all want to participate in some way. And everybody knows my content's really crazily varied. I mean, I do reads, I do legal, and I do some really messed up commentary on the state of the world and the state of socials. And it's fun. We try to have fun. I also do political content here and there. I have backed away from that a little bit because in the United States, if you live here, it's been a bit rough, and our election is coming up, and I decided to bow out until after. And we'll see what we can do then. Okay, but it's just sometimes things get to be too much. So I've hit 9 o'clock. It's actually 9:01. I'm a minute late. You are successful in derailing me by 1 minute there, Quiz. Good job. But on that, I'm going to end it, and I'll see you during the week, but definitely on Friday, 8 o'clock, and then Sunday, 1 o'clock. Both of those times are Eastern Standard, and I hope to see some of you, if not as many of you as possible there, especially on Sunday. So good night, everybody. Thank you to mods. Thank you to the chatters who make this really more enjoyable for me to give out all this kind of information and interact. And for those of you following up later, thank you. Thank you for your views. Thank you for your contributions to the growth. And don't forget to like, share, and comment. Please hit the back of the videos. That helps the algorithm too. Every bit does. Thank you all. Have a good night.